Nice to see you. And Kyle, I have a request. Can you put the camera so I can see the audience a little bit there? Thank you. This was Jaya's suggestion, and it's very nice when you're the person who's online to see who you're talking to. Hello, everyone online too. So my name is Dhuti, and in the church there we have Kelly and Kyle on sound. The sound is essential in our world, so thank you so much. And we're going to start today with this song, which matches the topic, Why Do Devotees Fall? And I would love your participation in this song on the chorus. It's a funny song that I wish I had other people here doing it with me, singing along with me, because, here we go. Is this it? Yeah. Because it's one of those songs. You'll recognize it. The chorus is, singing wise, oh, with his books, oh, such a mighty scholar was he. And you will see this is one of the ways that devotees can fall. Just let me get this queued up a little bit here. The way to perfection is narrow and steep. The bypaths are many, the pitfalls are deep. By theory alone, many think to arrive. Here's one who could teach them if he were alive. A philosopher stepped into a boat, the river to cross would he. So learned was he thought no man could be half so clever as he. Here's the chorus. Singing wise, oh, with his books, oh, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise, oh, with his books, oh, such a mighty scholar was he. To the boatman he said, good man, pray tell of the German philosophers three, Schopenhauer, Hegel, and weighty Kant, whom you deem the wisest to be. Singing wise, oh, with his books, oh, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise, oh, with his books, oh, such a mighty scholar was he. Please excuse me, sir, the boatman said, I've not read your philosophers three. Oh, day am obliged to ply these oars to support my family and me. Singing wise, oh, with his books, oh, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise, oh, with his books, oh, such a mighty scholar was he. In that case, my good man, your wretched life is as good as a quarter lost. Why, without the writings of those three men, not a shelf of books would I trust. Singing wise, oh, with his books, oh, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise, oh, with his books, oh, such a mighty scholar was he. Now then tell me, good man, the scholar said, have you studied the Frenchman Descartes? I've told you before, the other cried, I'm unschooled, hard work is my art. Singing wise, oh, with his books, oh, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise, oh, with his books, oh, such a mighty scholar was he. Hard work, what a waste, said foolish man. Half your life has been thrown away. Yet, still a fragment might be redeemed. Memorize one theory a day. Singing wise, oh, with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise, oh, with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. Of a sudden a storm with raging might did lash that river to foam. Like a drifting pedal it tossed their boat, till it seemed they'd never get home. Singing wise, oh, with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise, oh, with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. Then the boatman cried, my learned sir, our chances are growing dim. 2 questions you've put me so far this trip. Now I'll ask you one, can you swim? Singing wise, oh, with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise, oh, with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. I can't swim a stroke, the philosopher cried, as he clung in despair to an oar. Then the whole of your life is lost, my friend. You'll not need those books anymore. Singing wise, oh, with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise, oh, with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. The boatman regrets to say his fare never reached the opposite bank. All that ponderous learning inside his head gave him weight, you see, and he sang. Singing wise, oh, with his book so, such a weighty scholar was he. Singing wise, oh, with his book so, such a weighty scholar was he. Singing wise, oh, with his book so, such a weighty scholar was he. Singing wise, oh, with his book so, such a weighty scholar was he. It's a fun song. And I'd actually like to sing one more song before we chant, just because it's a very different feeling, and it shows how so varied Swami's music was, that he could do 2 songs really on the same subject. And here, this one is from the oratorio. 2 souls that were fallen, he spoke of God's love and coaxed them with kindness to turn back again. Forsake, he said, the fulfillments of earth, for the comfort they bring you lasts hardly an hour. Isn't that sweet? Okay, let's sit up straight and we'll take this chant into meditation. Let's see. Lord, when in darkness, Lord, in confusion, always I'll follow thee. If I grieve or lose my way, only thou canst comfort me. All I live for is to love thee, my beloved God. Lord, when in darkness, Lord, in confusion, always I'll follow thee. Lord, and in darkness, Lord, in confusion, always I'll follow thee. If I As we go into meditation, keep calling out in your heart, all I live for is to love thee, my eternal friend. Establishing that relationship with the divine consciousness in whatever form that speaks to your heart, that allows you to have that relationship. It's a living, breathing relationship that we need to keep alive. And we can do that especially through chanting and meditating. So make sure that you're sitting up and your shoulders are back and your spine is straight. Your chest is up with your heart open and calling out. And focus on your spiritual eye, point between the eyebrows, and vision a bright light there. And as you meditate, keep drawing your energy back to that light. Keep drawing your energy back to your heart, to your soul call. We'll meditate for 5 minutes. If you know any meditation techniques, you can do them for a few minutes, but make sure that you leave a minute or two of just sitting in that silence, in that bliss. And the simple mantra that you can use to help concentrate and direct your attention to your spiritual eye is, as you breathe in, feel the energy rising in your spine, accompanied by the mantra Hong, or I am. And then you bring your attention to the spiritual eye, and you can chant Om, Om, Om at the spiritual eye. And then as you exhale, keep your attention there, but feel that your breath is going down with the mantra Sa, Spirit. I am Spirit. Hong Sa. Keep bringing your attention back to that for a few minutes, and then allow yourself to just sit in the silence.
Remaining in a meditative state, please listen to this week's quality of the week from Affirmations for Self-Healing, the quality of introspection. People commonly delude themselves with easy rationalizations. Maybe I wasn't as kind as I might have been, they'll say. But wouldn't you have been unkind too if he treated you that way? Wasn't my fault. The fault was his. Thus, the blame for every wrong is placed at one neighbor's door. Introspection means to behold oneself from a center of inner calmness without the slightest mental bias, open to what may be wrong in oneself, not excusing it, but not condemning either. Introspection means referring what one sees to the superconscious mind and detachedly accepting guidance when it comes. Let's affirm together in a strong voice, I am what I am.
I am what I am.
Wishing cannot change me.
Wishing cannot change me.
Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude.
Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude.
For only by facing them
For only by facing them
can I work on them and change them.
can I work on them and change them.
Going more inward in a normal tone, affirm, I am what I am.
I am what I am.
Wishing cannot change me.
Wishing cannot change me.
Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude.
Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude.
For only by facing them
For only by facing them
can I work on them and change them.
can I work on them and change them.
In a whisper, affirm, I am what I am. Wishing cannot change me. Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude. For only by facing them can I work on them and change them. Silently now, allowing the affirmation to move into the subconscious, affirm, I am what I am. Wishing cannot change me. Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude. For only by facing them can I work on them and change them. Drawing the energy up the mind to the superconscious, the point between the eyebrows, affirm, I am what I am. Wishing cannot change me. Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude. For only by facing them can I work on them and change them. The prayer, let me not delude myself with desires, Lord. Teach me to see behind the play of my thoughts, thy ever calm gaze of wisdom.
A reading from Rays of the One Light, Weekly Commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. Week 23. Why do devotees fall? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. An endlessly fascinating question is, why did Judas fall after receiving the extraordinary blessing of being accepted into the inner circle of Jesus Christ's disciples? For Judas was one of the 12 apostles, yet he betrayed Jesus and earned for himself the opprobrium of Christendom for all of futurity for his sin. We find Judas reprimanding Jesus just days before that betrayal. Jesus, aware that his disciples would soon be facing, with his death, the supreme tragedy of their lives, allowed Mary to express her devotion by anointing his feet with costly ointment. This act of wanton waste, as Judas saw it, awakened indignation in that disciple. Why was not this ointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor? This he said, not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief and kept the purse and bare what was put therein. Then said Jesus, let her alone. Against the day of my burying hath she kept this. For the poor always ye have with you, but me ye have not always. Doubt not the power of delusion. Respect it indeed, fear it, though not in the sense of cowering before it. For as Yogananda said, one is not safe until he attains Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the state of final union with God. Judas, through attachment to money, opened his consciousness to subtle influences, which may be called satanic, that drew his thoughts toward other related attitudes. The importance of worldly power, for instance, and worldly influence. The Bhagavad Gita gives a graphic explanation of how easily the mind can be drawn downward once it begins to feed on wrong attitudes. In the second chapter, Sri Krishna states, if one ponders on sense objects, there springs up attraction to them. From attraction grows desire. Desire, impatient for fulfillment, flames to anger. From anger, there arises infatuation, the delusion that one object alone is worth clinging to the exclusion of all others. From infatuation ensues forgetfulness of the higher self. From forgetfulness of the self follows degeneration of the discriminative faculty. And when discrimination is lost, there follows the annihilation of one's spiritual life. At the first thought of delusion, Paramhansa Yogananda said, that is the time to stop it. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Oh, oh, oh.
Okay, this morning's Whispers from Eternity reading is number 54. Tune us that we may hear thy voice. Volumes of thy Savior voice plunge through the microphone of loving hearts. The voice of thy wisdom is roaming through the ether of minds, searching for ecstasy-tuned hearts. Thy sermons of warning sadly pass, unheard by the souls deafened with the static of their sense pleasures. O divine broadcaster, tune our souls, smothered beneath the static of indifference. Tune us with the fine touches of thy perceptions, and thus grant us the privilege of hearing thy magic song of ecstatic awakening. Yogananda has such a beautiful way of expressing these eternal truths, and the voice of wisdom roaming through the ether of minds. You can just imagine, and same with volumes of the Savior's loving voice. It's echoing in hearts, but the question is, are our microphones turned on? Are our hearing aids turned on? Are we listening? Are we hearing this wisdom and love and light and joy that is coming through us? And in this reading, the sermons of warning sadly pass, unheard by the souls deafened with the static of their sense pleasures. And that's basically the point is, why do we fall? Why everyone falls? We all stumble. We all get caught. We get caught in our desires and our attachments, our pleasures. And I mean, Judas, it's hard to imagine, as it says in the reading today, here he was, one of 12 people that that were chosen by Jesus. And yet he had a pretty big fall. It's actually, it's all part of the dream, right? Because if Judas hadn't done it, somebody would have had to do it. Somebody had to take the hit, right? Because that was part of Jesus' story, to be crucified and rise up and all of that. And so there had to be a bad guy, a betrayer, but that doesn't mean he's bad for all eternity. And I'm just using Judas as a great example, because he is like a huge blaring example of falling. And but he rose and he came back. And I was trying to find the quote, but Yogananda said that he actually was liberated in the last century, or maybe it was 1800. He was a devotee of Ramakrishna in Calcutta, and he was one of his very close disciples. And you may have heard this story, and I wanted to find as I said, the actual quote, because I'm not sure I remember it exactly, but in that ashram of monks, of Brahmacharis, in Calcutta with Ramakrishna, he was doing the books. He was still dealing with his attachment to money, and because that was kind of the big deal in in this story with Jesus. He was like, "Why are you using that oil that could be sold and the money could be given to the poor?" He was still attached to it, and the other brothers would sometimes tease him or something, and Ramakrishna was, "No, just don't bother him." And because Ramakrishna knew that he was going to be free of that big karma and desire. So for us, I don't think any of us are faced with that big of a fall, but we stumble and fall all the time. And it might just be a little thing, like we use a bad word, or whatever our standards are, the failure kind of matches it. So I mean, swearing once in a while is not like betraying your master, but still we all have these moments. And the big part of this is to not get discouraged and feel that you're a failure. I believe that Judas hung himself, at least in one of the movies that I saw. That was the case. And so he gave up. He was, discouraged. He realized what a big mistake he had made. It's good that he realized. And so we just have to remember that God's love and God's wisdom is around us every moment. And just as in the Whispers reading, we have to keep keep the static away. The static is all the desires and the attachments and, just life, busyness. See, I just realized my microphone didn't have the right setting. I hope this is better. Excuse me. So, O divine broadcaster, tune our souls. So keep us attuned to thee. And there are many reasons that we fall. We don't even have to go into them, but for most of us, it's either our ego or our attachments and our desires, but pride and environment, because environment is stronger than willpower. And so if we have to make the right choices every moment. Like, is this a good situation? Is this going to bring me down, or is this going to lift me up? And it's as simple as that. We just follow that guidance, like what will lift us up into a higher vibration and into a higher octave, into being more open and receptive to that voice of God. Or it's sometimes we just like, well, I'm on vacation. I'm going to play here. I know the consequence, but I'm willing. And And we do. We just, it's like, life is a dream, and it's just this. And even through all these ups and downs, no matter what we do, we have to keep reminding ourselves that God is the thread. And if we can, our goal is to keep as an even keel as possible and not get bounced up and down by the waves of delusion, and just hold on tight, and use the tools that we know we have. Meditation is such a gift, because if we do it correctly, if we're just kind of sitting there and zoning out, that's one thing. But if we're actively a participant and we're constantly working on ourselves, this is why I love this, how Swami links the readings with the affirmations, introspection. It's important to be constantly gauging and evaluating and looking at ourselves. And that was how goes it on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. That was Sanjaya, I believe, in the Mahabharata, or the blind king. I can't remember his name, but so every day it was how goes it, just looking at it. How goes it on the battlefield of our lives? Every night we can. We can kind of mentally go through as we go to sleep. This is a very good practice, and to just basically mentally burn up all of our failures, all of our desires and attachments, and let them go. And so that's a very good practice that can help us. And the next day, it's a fresh day. It's a new start. And even if we stumbled and fell very far, we will rise up. There's a movie years ago that was out, which was kind of haunting. It's called What Dreams May Come, Robin Williams. And he was killed in a car accident, I think, along with his 2 children, and his wife, she wound up committing suicide. So because she was, obviously very depressed, discouraged, and devastated by this. This is a movie, but our lives are like a movie too, right? So he's in the astral plane, and he's trying to get her. And he does eventually find her, but she was in a dark place. And he had to go there. And it's an interesting movie to watch just for fun. And it reminds us, don't give up. Don't give up, because there is no forever. We're not going to stay fallen down and as a failure. Yes, with Judas, maybe it took 2,000 years, but what's 2,000 years? And in the realm of eternity. So one of the things is that we don't realize the power of delusion, and it seems harmless. It's like the wolf in sheep's clothing, or again in the Bible, and the temptation of Christ. Satan he's got a reasonable offer to Jesus. Come on, be my partner here, and look what we'll have, and look what we can do. But Jesus was not fooled, luckily. And again, these are extreme examples, but we can apply them to our lives as well. So we have to always be aware and conscious, because we're not really free or safe from that temptation until we have gotten to a certain spiritual level. And so, and then again, that's pride, spiritual pride. Well, I'm above this, I'm not going to, and that was one of Judas's problems also. He thought he was better somehow. He thought he knew better than Jesus. Jesus, he's a nice guy, but he doesn't realize that, you have to appeal to the Pharisees and the priests and everything. You can't, go be on the wrong side of them. You can just see how the reasoning comes in. So that's where introspection comes in, and humility, and realizing that that you are not above it, and also just holding on, calling out to God, Lord, when in darkness, Lord, in delusion. Swami's words are confusion, but you could substitute that. Always I'll think of thee, just hold on tight. And God doesn't let go of us. It's us who chooses, well, I think I want to do this instead of meditate or whatever. But it is a constant battle, the battle of life. And a battle makes it sound like it takes a tremendous amount of energy and even danger. Yes, that's true. But we have so many things to help us. I mean, just, if you start to feel that your energy is dropping, well, and if you don't feel like meditating, because sometimes it's hard, especially if you're battling things. I have a dear friend who's going through tremendous grief now, and she's not doing 3-hour meditations. It's too much. And so instead, she's watching inspiring videos of Asha and Swamiji, and she's got, God, God, God on all the time. She's got music and uplifting energy to help pull her out and lift her out. And so I loved Kyle's analogy last week when she was in Ireland, and she was talking about this Irish castle with impenetrable walls. And that image has just stayed with me. We need to make our walls impenetrable to the enemy of delusion and pride and ego, and keep putting one foot in front of the other, even when we stumble. And another very important quality, and this comes along with introspection, is discrimination, knowing when to, knowing the right choices. And when we make the wrong choices, again, that introspection, looking back, how did it go on the battlefield of Kurukshetra today? Kurukshetra is, in the Mahabharata, that's the battlefield. So that's the line. How did it go? How did it go in our lives today? Did we, stay in a higher octave and keep our hearts open to love and receiving inspiration? Did we keep our minds clear? And did we discriminate? And did we listen to the wisdom of our guides and our inner higher self? So it's not a lazy walk by the river, although we have these moments, certainly. And I don't mean to make it sound like it's just all hard, but sometimes we go through these periods which seem like a long time before we can kind of get our footing again. But we do. And we have our loved ones, our family, our friends, our Guru Bhais, and we have these great masters who are rooting for us. What a team. And we have the tools of meditation and music and the wisdom of the scriptures, and we have so many inspiring videos to watch when we can't do anything else but just sit in the chair and momentarily, pull ourselves out of our funk. But we do. And so that's the hope, the message of hope is that, yeah, we fall, and yes, we pick ourselves up. So let me just see if there's one last thing. Don't judge yourself. Don't be down on yourself. Oh my God, I really blew it. Because it is so hard it makes it even that much harder to pull ourselves out of the funk when we feel that we've done horrible things. So we just have to stay awake and ready, and recognize how many blessings we have. My friend keeps a blessing journal, and because during this time of deep grief and loss, and she's focusing on all the many blessings that she has, and she reads through it, and that helps her, and she writes in it every day. So focus on the light and keeping our hearts open and our minds elevated, and always try to make the right choice, the higher choice. And if you're not sure, you just close your eyes for a moment and feel and ask. You can do it in a second. Just close your eyes, focus at the spiritual eye. Master, God, which? And it's usually there, unless your mind is full of a lot of static. So we try to keep the static out and keep the love and the light and the joy flowing. So blessings to you. We'll have our offering now. I'll let someone else do the prayer.
It's beautiful. Please take what you'd like to give and place it in your right hand and pray with me. Divine Mother,